Good morning, sports fans. You're listening to 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio.
This is Eric Hatfield along with Coach Perry Daniels, and we are here to bring you the latest, the greatest, the best, and the most entertaining in high school, college, and professional sports. You are listening to Louisiana All American Sports.
Hail to the king and lords of love. May he protect us from the evil.
Good morning, Baton Rouge. Yeah, you finally got one day free of my singing. Ain't nobody dope as me. Just did it again. Whoops. Good morning, Baton Rouge. You might have noticed that we followed up the usual intro with the music you hear on the way out. That is because the title of that song is called Hail to the King. Well, if you haven't guessed yet, we're probably going to start the show off with a little bit about the King, LeBron James. No getting around that. That was the story that swept its way to the top of the sports cycle yesterday, with LeBron James announcing that he will return to the Cleveland Cavaliers via what I thought was a very thought-provoking and insightful essay that was released on SI.com around noon Eastern time, shortly after noon Eastern time yesterday morning. Go on in and get in this conversation. The number is area code 225-343-9927, 225-343-9927, here on Louisiana All American Sports on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio. This is Eric Hatfield. My partner, Coach Perry Daniels, is out today, so you get 60 minutes of me, unless, of course, you call the number 225-343-9927. So let's jump right on in to LeBron James. Let's talk about the King and the return of the King. Kind of shocking. I'll be the first to admit I didn't see it coming. If you're a regular listener to this show, you know that I've said over and over again that I thought that the King's travels and his opting out of his contract was much ado about nothing, that he was taking inventory of his options to negotiate the best long-term deal with the Miami Heat. I got to say I was stunned. I'm not surprised. Now, I will say this much. I did say the first time when LeBron first opted out of his contract, or was rumored to be opting out of his contract after they were beaten by the San Antonio Spurs, I did say there was one teeny-weeny but. I said, yes, but if the Cleveland Cavaliers don't blow the first-round pick, and they certainly did not in picking Andrew Wiggins, and if the numbers lined up, and if they re-signed Kyrie Irving, there was a possibility that Cleveland could be appealing. I did say that, but I also said over and over and over again that I thought that he'd be nuts to leave Miami. I was wrong. I swung and missed. In fact, if I had had time to produce a full I Told You So segment, I think I would have put together a cornucopia of all the times that I said that I whiffed on this. But still, very interesting story in the sports world, LeBron James going home. So let's go back to when this odyssey all began. Let's kind of review the chronology of LeBron James and this journey he's had through the NBA, which of course started with him getting drafted in 2003 by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Of course, LeBron James is a native of Akron, Ohio, so he was right up the block. It would be kind of tantamount to say back in the day if we had a team in New Orleans, if Shaquille O'Neal had been drafted by the Hornets/Pelicans and played right up the road, or say a Baton Rouge native who had a very large profile, went right up the road to New Orleans. Akron and Cleveland, both in that northeastern Ohio area. So let's take inventory of this story that took place, shall we? So this whole odyssey began back in 2010, as we were all aware at the time LeBron James's contract was going to expire. It was his second contract. He would have been was an unrestricted free agent at the end of the 2010 season. And of course, Cleveland attempted to circle the wagons and make sure the King stayed, and they came up with this. This happened, and they allowed it to happen.
There comes a time when a decision must be made. Will the King move on, or will he stay?
So naturally, after hearing that desperate plea, LeBron did what any self-respecting man would do, what I certainly would do. He packed his stuff and got out of there. And then, of course, he delivered this to the country.
The answer to the question everybody wants to know. LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, this is very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
And who could possibly blame him for going to Miami? We all know he experienced great success there, 4 consecutive Eastern Conference championships, back-to-back NBA championships in 2012 and 2013. Beatles were a lot of fun to watch, but eventually he got the calling.
LeBron James tells Sports Illustrated, quotes, "I'm going home." The 4-time NBA MVP will return to the Cleveland Cavaliers, where he began his career. Just 4 years after the decision, LeBron was at the same crossroads again. It came down to staying in Miami or returning to Cleveland. In choosing the Cavs, LeBron says, "I'd always believed that I'd return to Cleveland and finish my career there." For more, we bring
the work they've done on that front line has been terrific for Cleveland.
Barnett comes out on LeBron. Now they switch, and here's Pierce again. A Smith screen. Posey will defend. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Interesting. No shot clock. You need one stop. Do you send multiple players at LeBron? Down to 5. Down to 3.
Make somebody else beat you.
3 on the way.
He got it! Got it! LeBron with 0.1 second left. Hits it from downtown. That is cold, freezing, ice-chilled blood in his veins. Oh my.
Coming home, I'm coming home.
So, to the surprise of many, the surprise of myself, to the surprise of the Miami Heat organization and their ownership, and I think much of the sports world, LeBron James is going home and will be playing the 2014-15 season as a Cleveland Cavalier, where the Odyssey began again. So, let's look at what caused this. I mean, it was surprising, but nothing happens for no reason. I know that's a double negative. 225-343-9927, 225-343-9927 to get in on the conversation here on 96.9 FM, Louisiana All American Sports. So let's look at a couple of things. First of all, the way that LeBron got to Miami in the first place, he announced on national television with a 1-hour special on ESPN with, of course, the proceeds going to benefit the Boys and Girls Club of Akron. He made the announcement on national television that he'll be taking his talents to South Beach. I think the general consensus, with the benefit of hindsight, he was a free agent. It was the best move for him in his career. Definitely, with the benefit of hindsight, it was the best move. But I don't think anyone could blame him for, as a free agent, going to join up with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh with the Heat. The Cavaliers really had the man on an island playing by himself with almost no support, and LeBron was there to win a championship. I don't think a lot of folks blamed him for that, but I do think going on national television and stabbing Cleveland in the heart was a bit much. It was unprecedented, and he got the recoil, and he kind of became the NBA's villain, so to speak. It was immediately followed with people burning LeBron James's jerseys in the streets of Cleveland, and he was widely, pretty much anybody who was not a fan of LeBron James himself or a fan of the Miami Heat, he became the villain. He became hated. People said, he was arrogant and all kinds of stuff. And of course, Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, put that scathing and, in my opinion, disgusting letter on the website, which he only took down a few days ago, calling LeBron James a coward and saying that Cleveland would win a championship before LeBron did. That's funny on so many levels, Cleveland. Anyway, so it made LeBron the bad guy. Got to Miami. Well, you know what? You can don't hate the player, hate the game, because LeBron James, under his leadership, along with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, and a host of critical role players like Ray Allen, helped get the Heat, helped the Heat win 4 consecutive Eastern Conference championships. They won back-to-back NBA championships in 2012 and 2013 with the gentleman sweep over the Oklahoma City Thunder and the dramatic 7-game series against the San Antonio Spurs last season. Of course, that was bookended with losses in the finals to the Mavericks in 2011 and the good old-fashioned, passionate butt-kicking at the hands of the San Antonio Spurs this year. But nonetheless, LeBron James, 4 straight finals appearances, 2 titles. His career and his profile and his resume took a step up with that move to Miami. There's really no getting around that. On the other hand, going back to Cleveland, it's a good feel-good story, to say the least. But there were some basketball-related factors in that. The Miami Heat are aging quickly. I mean, we've watched Dwayne Wade deteriorate before our eyes. All players, all professional athletes are gonna tick down a little bit as far the time as undefeated and untied and eventually ending great careers. But Dwayne Wade took a huge step backwards. His per game average dropped from roughly 24 points a game to about 19 points per game. His minutes declined. His knees were getting the better of him. I mean, Dwayne Wade, ironically, his nickname was the Flash. Back in his younger days, was anything but the Flash, although he did have flashes of his old Flash self. I mean, there were moments when Dwayne Wade would spike up and take over games. He had a couple of games in the Eastern Conference playoffs where no doubt he helped push the Heat over the top to wins, and they really coasted through the Eastern Conference playoffs en route to the finals, but they just ran into a wall with the San Antonio Spurs with their young star Kawhi Leonard and a very rested aging big three of San Antonio's own in Manu Ginobili, who looked like he drank from the fountain of youth, Tim Duncan, who is ageless, and Tony Parker, who's still got a lot left in the tank. Also, the Heat failed to be proactive in free agency. They did make, they made a little bit of a splash. I don't even want to call it a splash, more like throwing a pebble into the pond by drafting in the second round, arranging to get second-round pick Shabazz Napier, point guard from Connecticut, down there in Miami, and LeBron James was outspoken that he was very fond of Napier in his game. That's nice, but and they did sign Danny Granger, former Indiana Pacers star, who's just become been relegated to a role player after suffering an injury, but another guy who in bursts can be very productive. But that's not going to move the needle. And you have Ray Allen, who would be approaching his 19th year in the NBA. Should he return next year? I don't know, maybe he follows LeBron to Cleveland. I don't know, but there were a lot of dangling participles, if you will, out there, not to mention uncertainty of the future of the big three. Everybody, Chris Bosh was worth max money, but could not get it with LeBron getting max money, which he obviously was worth. And Dwayne Wade had a near-max contract. He had to come down a little and leave some money on the table just to have a shot at re-signing LeBron. There was a lot of uncertainty in Miami and not a lot of moves in free agency. Meanwhile, the Cleveland Cavaliers are making power moves. They re-signed all-star guard Kyrie Irving, who I think is on his way, the point guard is on his way to being a superstar in a point guard-driven league, to a max deal for 4 years. And then they drafted Andrew Wiggins with the first pick in the 2014 NBA draft. Andrew Wiggins was a guy who people had been heralding as quote-unquote the next LeBron since he was in high school. And while I think that's a bit of a stretch and remains to be seen, he is a phenomenal talent. He can shoot, he can jump, he can slash. He's a good defender, has a little work to do. He's a decent ball handler. I think he has a lot of upside. This guy's going to be a huge talent. Plus, they also had the first pick in the 2013 NBA draft in Anthony Bennett. So, Anthony Bennett might be on his way to Bustville, but, sometimes people take a little time to develop. Maybe the King can help him develop. We don't know yet. But the point is that Cleveland is making some moves, a youth movement to head in the right direction. The Heat were aging. So there are some basketball-related factors to this. And quite frankly, on paper right now, LeBron in Cleveland makes Cleveland look like a much more favorable championship contender than LeBron in Miami with even the same cast they have, even assuming Chris Bosh came back and Ray Allen, etc. So there were some real basketball factors there. And, of course, there's rumored to be a possible push to acquire Kevin Love, the all-star center, currently with the Minnesota Timberwolves. He is he said he's not going back to Minnesota after this year. He's approaching the final year of his contract, so there is a push to possibly acquire Kevin Love. If that happens, boom, Cleveland is the prohibitive front runner in the Eastern Conference. They probably are right now. Here's a hint for our listeners: we might have some information coming down from Vegas, just telling us how the LeBron bomb moved the needle yesterday. So, naturally, with a player like LeBron James, best player in the world, biggest star in the NBA, moving, how's the needle move? And actually, we have a phone call coming in. One of y'all want to get in on the conversation, so sit tight. You are on the air live on Louisiana All American Sports. Caller, what's your name?
I must have the wrong number.
Okie dokie. Well, all right. Must have the wrong number. Well, it happens. All righty. So anyway, by the way, 225-343-9927, area code 225-343-9927. If you would like to get in on the conversation, hopefully you'll have the right number and want to speak to us. But anyway, back to where we were. The domino effect, when you have a guy like LeBron James moving, that's a big shift of power from one team to another. And what's the domino effect? Well, first of all, Cleveland became an overnight contender. They had the first pick in the draft. They were a lottery pick team. They were among the worst teams in the NBA in a horrendous Eastern Conference. And overnight, they become a contender as they picked up Andrew Wiggins, phenomenal talent. Now they have the best player in the world back on their team. That has shifted the power completely in the Eastern Conference. Miami is just another good team again. They still have Dwayne Wade, and while Dwayne Wade is declining, Dwayne Wade is still in the top third to top quarter of NBA shooting guards. And, if he can just rehab those knees, if he can stay healthy, if he can get some help, if they can do kind of like what they did with Tim Duncan and Tony Parker in San Antonio, maybe find a way to reduce those minutes under 30 minutes per night, around 30 minutes per night, and get some role players to fill in. Who knows? But another good thing that happened, though, is that the Rockets, with LeBron James going to Cleveland, that freed up oodles and oodles of cap space and allowed them to re-sign Chris Bosh, who is not declining and is very much at the top of his game. And, in the 9 regular season games in which LeBron James did not play while Chris Bosh was there, Chris Bosh was just as good as anybody else. I mean, he's slim. He's not a powerful guy, but, he's a heck of a shooter. He's a capable defender until you start getting into the paint where you can see his weaknesses because he's not a true center. But Bosh is a phenomenal offensive talent, can play both ends of the floor. And when LeBron James is not there getting the touches, Bosh can step his game up. So I don't think Miami's going to vanish. They're not going to have ping pong balls in their future next year. I think they're just going to be another good Eastern Conference team, probably a team that finishes somewhere with the 3rd, 4th, or 5th seed maybe in the Eastern Conference next year. I think Eric Spoelstra is a very talented coach. Pat Riley knows how to make moves, but Miami's not winning a championship next year. That left the Houston Rockets holding the bag, though. The Houston Rockets extended a max contract to Chris Bosh. Remember, they already have Dwight Howard down there. They already have James Harden. You add Chris Bosh down there, and the Rockets move to the front of the line as far as serious Western Conference contenders. Well, that didn't happen. They are reported now to be matching the offer made to forward Chandler Parsons that was matched the offer from the Dallas Mavericks made to Chandler Parsons. It was 3 years, roughly $45 million, if I remember correctly. Parsons, a very talented forward. He can score, capable defender, solid player, durable. He's going to help keep the Rockets up there, but Bosh to Houston would have completely pushed them over the top. And now the Carmelo Anthony domino is about to drop next. Does he stay in New York where he would be leaving some serious money on the table? I've heard estimates everywhere from $20 to $40 million over the life of his contract, and even for a millionaire, that's a lot of money. This will probably be the last big deal that Carmelo Anthony gets to sign. And of course, I've heard that he is debating between staying in New York, where the money is and where Phil Jackson is, the Zen Master, or going to Chicago and teaming up with Derrick Rose. Also with Coach Tom Thibodeau, who knows how to make bread into fish and water into wine with some of the things he's done. Great coach there. They just drafted Doug McDermott, the reigning college basketball's most outstanding player. Great offensive talent, great offensive potential there. You add another offensive bombshell like Carmelo, and the Bulls, being a slugfest hypothetically with Cleveland right away. So that domino is probably going to be the next to fall. Will Carmelo Anthony go to the Knicks or the Bulls? By the way, 225-343-9927, area code 225-343-9927. If you want to talk about what you think about the impact of the LeBron James move, or if you want to talk about what you think is going to happen with Carmelo Anthony, hey, if you just want to talk about the world of sports, come on and give me a call. 225-343-9927 here on Louisiana All American Sports on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio. So, other moves in the NBA, other dominoes that fell. Jeremy Lin, backup point guard in Houston, He 2 years ago he signed a 3-year deal with Houston that was very backloaded, and the big chunk of that contract, I believe it's a 12 or 15-year chunk of that contract, is going to fall in the following season. The Rockets had to move him; they had no choice. Lin is a very good role player, but he's a backup. Of course, what makes Lin an attractive trade asset is that he has a huge expiring contract. And the way the NBA salary cap system works, you're capped at how much you can pay your players, but with 1 year left on the contract, you pick him up. That big contract comes off the books next year, freeing up a lot of cap space for you. Trades in the NBA need to be relatively equal. You cannot cannot pick up a contract that's worth less than 80% of the value of what you're sending away. So that expiring contract was an asset, and the LA Lakers picked it up. I think this is good. Steve Nash is entering the last year of that $9 million. He'll have a $9 million contract next year. Steve Nash has been often injured. You just don't know what Steve Nash is going to show up. When he's healthy, he's great, but he hasn't been. He certainly wasn't last year. Steve Nash would be insane to retire with $9 million left on the table, so he's going to come back. I think Jeremy Lin's a very good backup next year as from a basketball standpoint, and also the Lakers might be able to finagle a long-term deal with Lin, and that money comes off the books, which will make the Lakers a potent force in free agency in 2015. Not to mention they acquired Julius Randle in the 2014 NBA draft, just a powerful, brute talent out of the University of Kentucky. So L.A., they're not going to the finals next year, but they're probably going to return to the playoffs with that series of events in their offseason. So I like that move. Jeremy Lin out to the Los Angeles Lakers. Lance Stevenson was reportedly offered a 5-year, $44 million contract from the Indiana Pacers. He said, cut me a check. Cut me a bigger check than that. So he's still shopping himself around, and he's rumored to be talking to the LA Lakers. Now, I just can't see Lance Stevenson's circus act playing well out there in LA with Kobe still with 2 years left on his deal. And, look, the Lakers are a historic franchise about winning, and Lance Stevenson is a spectacular talent. Good shooter, great defender. I mean, I'm not going to say anything here. He stopped LeBron James. I'm not going to go old school with former Cleveland Cavalier Gerald Wilkins, who dubbed himself the Jordan Stopper. But what I will say is that Lance Stevenson bottled up LeBron James and forced LeBron James to adjust to his game probably more than any other defender of the King that I had seen last year. Stevenson's a talent, but his antics, blowing in LeBron James's ears and taking, silly pictures and putting them on Instagram and saying stupid things and getting kicked out of games. Even his own teammates don't like his act. I mean, when Paul George was asked, did he want to see Lance Stevenson back in Indiana, he said, well, that's really going to depend on management. Okay, now why don't you ask Dwayne Wade, did he want LeBron James back? The answer is, drum roll, yes. It's an immediate yes. That didn't happen. So that Lance Stevenson saga is one more domino to fall. I think I don't see him getting a much more attractive offer from the Lakers, who are already capped up this year. Hold on. Looks like might be less than me more than you, unless it's the wrong number. Let's see who we got on the line here. All right, go ahead. You're on the air live on Louisiana All American Sports. What's your name? Hello. Hello, McFly. Okay, looks like I've got a lot of wrong numbers here today. Hello. All right. Well, give us a call back and give us a call right back if you had a little technical difficulty, or maybe I had a little technical difficulty. But Anyway, so the Lance Stevenson saga is going to be one more to come. I don't know. I just don't know if he's going to get a much better offer than $44 million total over 5 years, especially with his track record. He's got a lot of growing up to do. Another big, powerful piece we've yet to talk about is Pau Gasol, the center for the LA Lakers, center/power forward. You know, here's the thing with Pau Gasol. Yes, he's on the quote-unquote wrong side of 30, but he's still a force. Pau Gasol is a big guy who can score and can shoot, and he's a capable defender. I'm not going to say he's going to be Defensive Player of the Year, but he can bottle a guy up. So that's a big piece, and for 1 or 2 years, that will shift some power depending on where he goes. He's almost certain to be leaving L.A., who's trying to get younger, trying to make moves, trying to free up cap space. The 3 potential suitors for Pau Gasol all could make a tremendous impact on the power landscape in the NBA. The Chicago Bulls are rumored to be in the Pau sweepstakes. Carmelo Anthony or not, if Pau Gasol goes to Chicago with Joakim Noah already there in the front court, the Bulls are going to be a lockdown defensive team. They may very well be 1-2 with Cleveland, or 1-2 over Cleveland in the Eastern Conference. The Oklahoma City Thunder, who have been in the Western Conference Finals over and over and over again, that could push the Thunder over the top should Gasol go there. They have been looking for somebody in the front court who can kind of complement Kendrick Perkins and of course, they lost Tybo Cephalosha in the offseason, so that could be a real addition. That will push OKC, probably to the front of the Western Conference ever so slightly. And then, of course, he's also rumored to be courted by the Spurs. Now, could you imagine? Obviously he would be a replacement for Thiago Splitter, or be rotating with Splitter and Tim Duncan, and Pau Gasol in the same front court, along with Kawhi Leonard. Maybe Thiago Splitter coming off the bench. That would be ridiculous. So wherever Pau goes, that team's stock is going to rise next year. So keep an eye on that, and also keep an eye on what the LA Lakers receive in exchange for Pau. They are not oblivious to the fact that they have, potential sign and trade capability to acquire a very important piece. There are salary cap implications with wherever Pau Gasol decides to go, which would give the Lakers some leverage. So a whole lot of shaking going on in the world of basketball. We are going to take a very short recess and come back on the other side. Area code 225-343-9927, 225-343-9927 to get in on the conversation here on Louisiana All American Sports. Coming up shortly, we're going to talk about a little World Cup soccer, as we had a shocker in the semifinal round last week, and we have the finals coming up, also the consolation match. That should be very exciting. Looks like the cream just rose to the top there. We'll also be discussing a lot of activity in Major League Baseball, a lot of stories going on there. Stay tuned. You are listening to Louisiana All American Sports on 96.9 FM, WHYR-LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio. We are back on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio. If you listen to the show regularly enough, you will be very familiar with our next guest. We have the Professor Terrell Johnson. Good morning. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Eric. Peace and blessings to our universal family. What's today's math, good brother?
Oh, wait, you said today's math?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I don't know, man. You tell me.
Well, man, thank you again for having me always, and I love your listening audience. First of all, if you will allow me to just throw in a quick segue about McKinley Senior High School and the big Unity picnic that we're having today. I'm glad that you said community radio, because we're extending the olive branch of peace, and we want to call out to all McKinley alumni, friends, and family to come out to the Reunion Unity Picnic. It's going on right now at the high school on the back parking lot adjacent to the football field. All the classes have lined up. We have tents, food, fun, spirits, and drinks. It's going to be a great family affair going on down there today. We want to invite all to come out so we can show you some excellent hospitality from the residents of South Baton Rouge.
Wow, hell. And where time and place again?
It's going on at McKinley Senior High School on the back parking lot near the football field.
Mm-hmm.
It's occurring between the hours of 1 to 6. Now, the hours may be extended because we handed out about 1,500 wristbands.
Wow.
So that's going to be a substantial amount of people for friends, family, and class members, those that pay to participate. But, Eric, I got you pro bono. You just come on in.
All right, awesome. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate that. What else do you have for us today? You always got some knowledge to drop on us.
Yes, sir. Indeed, I do. And since I'm talking about McKinley, I want to just stick with that theme briefly for a minute, not to monopolize a whole lot of time.
No problem at all. No problem at all. I don't think the audience wants to hear nonstop me. I'm pretty confident of that.
No problem. Well, what we have today, I wanted to just share with you a basic overview of the great accomplishments of a gentleman by the name of Dr. James Frazier. Dr. James Frazier was an educator in the early 1900s, and he is the first principal of McKinley Senior High School. And Mr. Frazier, along with Dr. Leo S. Butler, who's a name that's also synonymous with the community. We have the Leo S. Butler Center. Dr. Baranco, who was a dentist in the neighborhood, along with Joseph S. Clark, who was the president at Southern University. These four astute gentlemen sought out to create an institution of learning for those blacks that had been disenfranchised for so long, that had been not allowed to participate in the educational process and that were kept ignorant on purpose. Dr. James Frazier set out with his own funds, he and those other gentlemen, and created what was called the Hickory Street School in 1906. Now, in the early 1900s, there wasn't public schools for those who were formerly enslaved. So Dr. Frazier set out, created the Hickory Street School, which is the genesis, the starting point of McKinley. That process was short-lived. The school transitioned into Baton Rouge Colored School, which was from 1911 to 1916. This building was located on Cherry Street and subsequently was stricken by lightning. Yes. After this building was torn down, Frazier and those other gentlemen that I named, Dr. Butler, so on and so forth, petitioned the East Baton Rouge Parish School, say, look, we are bursting at the seams. We can learn. We can do this. We want to learn. We want to be productive members of society and good citizens. We need a district-sponsored school. Thus, McKinley was built and considered the great experiment. The great experiment, McKinley Senior High School in 1926, the building was constructed on East Boulevard. And with that being said, we had numbers of people from a tri-state area that were coming in to attend McKinley.
Wow.
They were coming in for as far as Macomb, Mississippi, as far as Shreveport. And this little small school showed to the world that we could educate ourselves, that we did want to learn, and that we could be self-sustained and amongst ourselves without outside assistance. Therefore, this is why you have the great legacy, the great history of McKinley, which was built in 1926 on East Boulevard, which is now Thomas Delpit, but it started with the Hickory Street School and Dr. James Frazier.
And self-sufficiency is certainly the key to any society, any people rising and thriving and prospering. Professor Johnson, as always, I appreciate you chiming in. Any drop you want to get in? Any 2 cents on LeBron or anything in the world of sports before I let you go?
Of course, I always love to interject on some of your topics. I missed that my guy Perry's night in the day. I always like to poke fun at him as well. But I think that what LeBron did is, I think LeBron is taking his destiny into his own hands. Mm-hmm. I think that I'm impressed with the fact that this gentleman has enough intestinal fortitude and business savvy,
right,
and the wherewithal to go out and demand that I'm going to be the master of my own destiny.
Right.
I think that the passion that he feels for his community, I think that he had an epiphany when he realized, he said, you know what, I have a duty, I have a mission to be responsible for the tree that bore me as a fruit.
Right.
If I don't sustain that tree and produce, LeBron is a business model. Him going back to Cleveland is going to be a injection into their economy.
Right. He sure is. He absolutely is. Just like when he went to Miami, you saw downtown shrivel up a little bit during the fall and spring.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, Professor, thank you so much for joining us as always. We love having you on the show, and I'm going to give it my best to see you a little bit later this afternoon.
Yes, sir. And let me hit you with one closing quote.
Fire away.
Closing quote. I said I'm going to do this every time from now on. Always investigate the information you receive. If it is indeed the truth, it shall stand the test of investigation.
Got that
Take
right.
it easy. Take it easy, Eric.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
Okay.
That was Professor Terrell Johnson, professor at Southern University. He might be Dr. Terrell Johnson by now. I neglected to ask that beforehand, but very much appreciated. Always comes with a cerebral point of view, and what can I say? We love having him on the show. So we're gonna move on to the World Cup. We're going to take a really, 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 really short break. I'll be back in less than 60 seconds. But stay tuned. You are listening to Louisiana All American Sports on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio. So, I'm sure to much of your delight, it is not going to be 60 minutes of non-stop Eric Hatfield talking. We have another regular guest of the show, another one of my personal favorites, hopefully one of your personal favorites. And when you hear this bump, if you listen long enough, you know who's coming online.
I'm going down, baby. Your street in the rain. Come on. Baby. Ready to let it go.
That's right. When you hear that, you know we've got the Fixer. What up, G?
Hey, what's happening, brother? What's going on this morning?
Oh, it's just another exciting Saturday morning in the world of sports here on Louisiana All American Sports. We have the Fixer, and the Fixer is, for those of you who are new to the show, is our special correspondent out in Las Vegas, Nevada. And you know they do a lot of things in Las Vegas, and sometimes they're rumored to be fixing things. So, Mr. Fixer, with the LeBron James bomb dropping, tell us what kind of news we have out of Las Vegas this morning.
Well, out of Las Vegas, nothing much changed except for two things. This is really kind of pondering my mind, but they have moved Cleveland up to a 9-2 or 3-1 favorite to win the NBA championship.
What, and where were they sitting prior to the LeBron announcement?
20-1.
I'm sorry, how much?
20-1.
Oh my goodness gracious! So now what? Now obviously, as one cometh, one goeth. As the odds push in the favor of the Cleveland Cavaliers, something must have changed with the Miami Heat. So can tell me about what those poor unfortunate souls who might have waited a little or might have jumped the gun a little bit and put money on Miami? What happened with their odds?
Well, Miami was a 3-1 favorite prior to the LeBron announcement. Now they are a 50-1 favorite to win the NBA championship.
They went from 3-1 to 50-1. So if you put money on the if you put money on the Heat anytime before yesterday, kiss that money goodbye. Wow. So let me ask you a question. Do you have? I know. Did your phone start blowing up? Did you become very busy yesterday? What was the volume, I guess, of activity on the heels of yesterday's announcement?
Well, people are kind of wondering. You know, LeBron is one man. I don't see very much on Cleveland Cavaliers besides maybe Valajau being a Bill Cartwright type,
right,
serviceable, and Tyree being an and-one player. You know what I mean? So I don't see much talent there. I guess maybe a lot of that is based on the fact that people are thinking that Kevin Love is also coming.
Right. Did the go ahead.
If that happens, that pushes them up. But I don't see them beating Oklahoma City, Miami. I don't even see them beating the Clippers.
Do you think the Andrew Wiggins acquisition was move the needle much one way or the other, or was it just kind of wait and see with a rookie?
It's a wait and see with the rookie. I mean, you know, it's the NBA. You know, you can be the #1 player in the country and come out and be a bust. We've seen that 100 times.
Let me ask you a question. A couple of other free agents I mentioned earlier that are going to push the needle. And I know you don't have numbers right now because this is all hypothetical, but what do you think is going to happen with the Carmelo Anthony decision, either out of going back to the Knicks or with the Bulls, and also Pau Gasol, who's being courted by the Bulls, Thunder, and Spurs? How could those guys possibly move the odds around?
Both most of those guys have been in the league over 10 years or 10 years plus. What have they done in the time they've been there?
Mm-hmm.
They aren't guys that are going to come to your club and bring you a championship. Gasol, I think he has a championship with the Lakers, but look at the team that he was working with.
Sure.
But Carmelo Anthony, if I was Carmelo, I would rethink the Bulls and the Knicks, and I would think about going to Cleveland.
Whew, oh, look, no, you kicked the anthill right there, Mr. Fixer. Got any other commentary? Anything else you want to weigh in on? This is a community forum here on WHYR.
Well, no, I don't have much going on today. You know, I just would beware of putting my money on Cleveland due to the fact that one player is not going to win you a championship. But those people who did put money on Cleveland at 20-1, they still got their bets in.
Oh yeah, they're getting paid. Or their odds shifted. One question, I got a lot of texts, a few tweets last week to at LAA Sports on Twitter. Did you have a hand in anything that went on with that Brazil-Germany game last week?
Well, I was I was there, and the night before, and me and the goalie, we had a real good time. We went out, we went to a few little things here and there, and I got them back in the room about 6 in the morning. So, then I had to get back to Vegas. My face couldn't be seen, but I ain't saying that I had something to do with it, but it's possible.
Businessmen got to stay busy. Well, you know the deal, man. Stay off the grid. Stay out of jail.
Peace.
That was The Fixer.
I'm going down, baby. Your street in the rain. Come on. Boom, boom, baby. Ready to let it go. Shit, go. Listen to it now.
Area code 225-343-9927, 225-343-9927 to get in on the conversation here on Louisiana All American Sports. Like to remind you, in about 15 minutes we have coming up Noel Jackson with Music Satisfaction here on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio. That's because Noel's grooves are so smooth. Got to put a little bass in my voice for that. So, moving on to the World Cup, for those of us that are even casual fans or every 4-year observers of soccer, I think a lot of us were just kind of left speechless at what went on in the World Cup semifinal as Germany really eliminated Brazil almost after the game started. They jumped out to a 5-0 lead within about 30 minutes. That game was over. For those of you that don't really pay much attention to soccer, typical score in a World Cup, they're about, on average, about maybe 2.1, 1.9, about 2 goals total per game scored. So, your average final score might be 1-0, 1-1, 2-0, something like that. It's not a high-scoring game. It's all about strategy, positioning the ball, and getting that opportunity and then taking advantage. Germany scored 7 goals. They led 7-0 up until the very final minute of the game. You don't see scores that resemble NFL football scores. It left me speechless. The only even real-life examples I can think of back in 1940, the Chicago Bears defeated the Washington Redskins 73-0 in the NFL's championship game. I can't even think of a similar obliteration. You see halftime of those rent-a-win games when Florida State is beating, a bi-directional university out of, southwestern Idaho State or something like that, 56-0 at halftime. That's the only thing I can compare it to, but Brazil was a favorite. There were 3 favorites, 3 teams expected to be there at the end: Brazil, Argentina, and Germany. And Brazil was the front runner of those 3, and they were absolutely destroyed on their home soil. It was absolutely shocking. Here's some commentary from one more knowledgeable of soccer than I am, as we have some remarks from Francis Maxwell of TYT Sports.
TYT Sports, Francis Maxwell. Germany squeezed by Brazil, 7-1. It's hard to, if you don't laugh, you'll cry if you're a Brazilian fan. I'm not a big Brazil fan. I just was a fan of it. I want it to be a close game. I think my bracket is well and truly absolutely effed. And it's just, it was unbelievable to watch a massacre before my eyes. That's what this game is. I mean, 1 minute you have Ben Mankiewicz saying that there's not enough goals. Next minute there's 8 goals and a World Cup match. That's how it happens. Muller got things started as he capitalised on horrendous marking to put it in the back of net. And then the rout started. 15 minutes, 5 goals. That doesn't even happen in pub football. That doesn't happen in that just doesn't happen. I'm sorry. Like, at this standard, at this level of football, it's so hard to contemplate what's just went on. So Brazil were calling out for a next goal wins rule, I think, and that was the only way they could ever survive this, because it was just awful. The back four, Macon, Marcelo, Dante and David Luiz, they're marking, they're diving into tackles, their all-round defensive structure was diabolical. It just shows that Brazil were mediocre through the tournament and carried on the leadership of one man, Silva, and on the flair of another man, Neymar. But don't worry, once they went 6-0 down, Philip Scolari finally said, you know what, we'll take Fred out. I mean, we don't need him anymore. After 6-0 down, we'll take him out. Are you joking me? I swear I'm so close to calling him up and putting my name in the running for next Brazilian number 9 for the next World Cup. He's given everyone hope. But as I said, Muller got the goal started before Kroos joined in the action, who's been phenomenal. Let's not take anything away from Germany here. They were outstanding. They passed the ball like no other. There's a reason why they're the most efficient team in this competition, and now undoubtedly the favourites to win it. Kroos grabbed 2, round off a great performance from him. Close, breaking the record now, the all-time World Cup top goal scorer. Khedira even getting in the action, which is, it's when he gets in the action, there's something going wrong, because your defensive midfielder rarely moves up by the halfway line. Schürrle grabbed 2 as well, a great finish. And Julio Cesar, he could just pick the ball at the back of the net constantly. There was nothing. The second half, they started bright. Brazil, they had a couple of chances to maybe bring some sort of respect to their nation. Credit to the fans, they stayed there. I know, and for me, that was a big ask for them to stay and watch the rest of the second half. It's hard to choose a jerk. It must be the hardest thing ever to pick one out of them all. I don't know who to. I mean, Fred is a constant to ask, but that's just my view. So I'm going to leave it up to you, fans. You please comment in the section below and let us know who your jerk is out of all of them, because there's a handful of selectees. But the jerk is up to you. Sorry, the Turk will go to Klose, who's broke the record now for most World Cup goals, and he absolutely deserves it for that. So as I said, Brazil crash out, humiliated in their own backyard against the efficient Germans, and I'm speechless. I just don't know how to round it off. I don't know how to contemplate. All I can say is that this is what it is, the World Cup. 1 minute you're goalless, next minute 8 goals in a game. So thank you, stay tuned for more. Survive this, because it was just
Brazil was calling out for next goal wins rule. I'll tell you, that's just the kind of response that really we experienced all around the world. I mean, this was total shock from top to bottom. So after that beatdown, Germany will advance to the finals. They will face Argentina. I'm not a big gambler. I'm not a big soccer guy, but Germany kind of answered the bell for me and showed what they were capable of. Germany is one of those teams that don't have any big superstars, even within the world of soccer. They don't have guys who'd be selling Gatorade like talking about it, but they've got some guys who can play and who can score goals. And while Argentina is very good and Argentina is undefeated and Argentina has given up, to my knowledge, I don't think they've given up a single goal in the knockout round of play. Outside of group play, I don't think they've given up anything. From what I've observed, I don't see anybody. I don't see anybody taking down the Germans. But that will be answered tomorrow at 12 o'clock our time on. I believe it's on ABC tomorrow. The consolation match between Brazil and the Netherlands. I mean, on paper, even without Neymar, who was injured with that fractured vertebrae in the quarterfinal game, you would expect Brazil to be the favorite in the consolation match and finish third. But after that decimation, I mean, do you even want to? How do you recover? One of two things are going to happen. They're either going to dial out, which would be even more disappointing, or they're going to man up and have something to prove. The Netherlands, I think by all accounts, are definitely the underdog in that one, and they might put a beat down. I don't think it's going to be 7-1, but they might put a good 2-0 or 3-0 whooping on the Netherlands and take out their fury and frustration. That's going to be interesting. That game is played later on today. I am kind of morbidly curious about that. So, like we do every week, we're going to have our Major League Baseball report. We're going to talk about what's going on in the majors with our boys on the diamond. Don't forget also we have the All-Star game coming up Tuesday night, the Home Run Derby Monday night. So this will be the last weekend of baseball. Today and tomorrow make up the last couple of days of regular season baseball until next Friday. Kick back, relax, and get ready for the Major League Baseball All-Star break. But let's get us caught up on where we are right now in the world of MLB. Alrighty, so in the American League East, that race has kind of turned a little upside down. The Toronto Blue Jays had been leading the AL East all year long. They have gone into a tailspin. They have lost 6 of their last 10. They had lost 5 in a row at one point, and they are now 3 games back of the division-leading Baltimore Orioles, who are on a tear right now. They've won 8 of 10. The Yankees are in a little bit of trouble. The New York Yankees had been right there in second place all year long, but they've fallen to 500. They're 5 games back of Baltimore. And now Masahiro Tanaka with the elbow injury will be out for at least 6 weeks. He was just he was keeping the Yankees in it. He was money, lights out, ERA leader, wins leader in the AL. He's going to be out at least 6 weeks, and it is possible if he has not recovered by that time, he might need Tommy John surgery, which would mean he'd be all out for the rest of this season and probably most of 2015. So a lot of the Yankees' fate hangs in the balance there. The Detroit Tigers right back where they belong. On top of the American League Central, they are 6.5 games ahead of the Kansas City Royals. In the American League West, the Oakland Athletics are making power moves. Perry had been saying how he expected the LA Angels to win that division. The Angels have been right there within striking distance most of the year. They're only 2.5 games back of Oakland right now, but Oakland made a huge play acquiring Jeff Samardzija from the Chicago Cubs, along with another starting pitcher. Understand that the Oakland A's plan was to get farm system, rookies, young guys who don't cost a lot of money because Oakland's in a small market. Jeff Samardzija has a big contract, and they gave up 3 big prospects. That tells me that Billy Beane, general manager of the Oakland Athletics, thinks they can win now, and they're going to try to win the World Series this year. I think Oakland's going to win the AL West. I think they're going to start to pull away as we move into August and September. Flipping over to the National League, the Washington Nationals and Atlanta Braves, well, what else is new? They're tied atop the AL East. Expect that to continue all the way through the end of the year. The next closest team is the Miami Marlins, who are starting to fall away. They're now 5.5 games back of first place. In the American League Central, that race is starting to get tighter. The St. Louis Cardinals are 1 game back of the Milwaukee Brewers, who have led that division all year long. The Cincinnati Reds are 1.5 games back of the Milwaukee Brewers, and the Pittsburgh Pirates have come back from the dead. They are 3.5 games back of Milwaukee. That is a 4-team race all over again. There was an exciting game on last night on the MLB Network between the Milwaukee Brewers and St. Louis Cardinals. The St. Louis Cardinals fell down 6-0, and then the Cards rallied back. K-Rod blew a save. Francisco Rodriguez blew a save, and the Cardinals came back to win 7-6. The St. Louis Cardinals, like I said, they're built for a marathon, not for a sprint, and they're starting to sprint at the right time, while the Brewers have lost 6 consecutive games. Cardinals winners of 7 of the last 10. The National League West, it's a 2-team race, will be for the rest of the year. The Los Angeles Dodgers and San Francisco Giants are both tied at the top of that division. Next closest team are the San Diego Padres. The Friars have no chance. They're 10 games back. That is a 2-team race. League leaders in the American League, Adrian Beltre leading the American League in batting average with 341. Immediately behind him is Jose Altuve of the Houston Astros, Robinson at 337, Robinson Cano of the Seattle Mariners at 330. The Mariners have fallen off. They're now 8 games back. They had been resurgent, but they've gone poof. In the National League, Troy Tulowitzki continues to lead the NL in batting, 349 average. Matt Adams of St. Louis, who is just setting it ablaze right now at 333. Andrew McCutchen of the Pittsburgh Pirates at 321. Home run leaders, Nelson Cruz continues to stay on top of the American League in home runs with 28. He is tied with Jose Abreu of the Chicago White Sox, who, in my opinion, right now is a slam dunk for Rookie of the Year. Edwin Encarnacion, who would receive my vote for American League MVP, in 3rd place with 26 dingers. Troy Tulowitzki leading the National League. He is my NL MVP right now. Tulowitzki of the Colorado Rockies with 21 home runs, tied with Giancarlo Stanton, also an MVP candidate. He has 21 homers. Anthony Rizzo of the Chicago Cubs with 20. Miguel Cabrera, the two-time reigning American League MVP, leading the league in RBIs of the Detroit Tigers with 74, tied with Nelson Cruz. Jose Abreu in third with 71 RBIs. Encarnacion of the Blue Jays in fourth with 70. Mike Trout of the Angels with 69. RBIs in the National League, Giancarlo Stanton of the Miami Marlins with 63, Paul Goldschmidt of the Arizona Diamondbacks with 61, Adrian Gonzalez of the Dodgers with 60, Justin Marno of the Rockies tied with Andrew McCutchen of the Pittsburgh Pirates with 59. Masahiro Tanaka leading the American League in wins right now with 12 wins, but that's going to change as he's out for several weeks with an elbow injury that seems to be epidemic in baseball. Felix Hernandez, Max Scherzer, Garrett Richards, and Scott Kazmir all tied with 11 wins in the American League. Alfredo Simon leading the NL with 12 wins, tied with Adam Wainwright of the Cardinals, Zach Greinke of the Dodgers, and Clayton Kershaw of the Dodgers with 11. We have Mess of Me, More of You. Go ahead. You are live on the air on Louisiana All American Sports. Caller, what is your name?
Coach Curly Daniel.
Hey, Coach, what we got going on?
Eric, I've been listening to a great show. I did want to take the time to share with our listeners a few things. This is a lot of attention being focused to LeBron James and that whole situation. Eric, if you could keep me abreast of the time, since I'm not in front of a clock.
We got 2.5 minutes.
Okay, we do not want to hold up Noel Jackson's show. But a couple things here. First, it is time for us to move beyond focusing on games and just the sport of it. This is also a business. And I heard Professor Johnson mention the impact that the return would have on the community of Cleveland. Well, that is trickled down. It is time for minorities to sit at the table. Don't get distracted here, people. There are still bigger issues than where LeBron James plays his game regarding the NBA. And we have to stay focused here. What did the brown and minority people of San Antonio get with a victory of a championship of the Spurs? Little to nothing but to say our team is the champions. We need economic enhancement. And the way to do that is to set people of color and other minorities at the table where things are being dished out. We've been eating dog food for so long, Eric, that it's starting to taste good to us. And we're satisfied. We're satisfied when people sign millions of dollars of contracts when the real money is above that. If you can afford to pay somebody $30 million, how much money can you make?
Like Chris Rock says, Shaq is rich. The guy who signs Shaq's check is wealthy.
Exactly. And we need more wealthy minorities. And that's nothing against the majority. That benefits the entire society.
I agree with you, Perry. I do, and you and I have talked about this privately. I do think, from everything I hear, little piece I listen to, I think LeBron James is one of that new wave of athlete who is kind of like Michael Jordan did in his time and Magic Johnson did. I think LeBron is one of those guys who's, I think, trying to take it to the next level after his career is over. Perry, any parting shots? We got 10 seconds.
Hey, man, I want to do our thing. ADT, JNS, I love you.
Have a good afternoon. I said, have a good, there we go.
Hail to the king. Hail to the king. And lots of love. May he protect us from the evil. Hail to the king. Lots of love. May he protect back out for me either.